allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call the meeting to order, and we will hesitate for just a few minutes. We've got, the town manager has something else going on currently. And that, this is a meeting 2022-04 at February 23rd, 2022, 6:30 p.m. and virtual meeting via Zoom. All right. And she's back.
And you're up for First National.
All right, so
Michelle?
First National Bank, First National Wealth Management is up.
Hello.
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 Everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Just so you're aware, because I don't know if you've been here since our Zoom setup has been in place, but there's two very large screens here, so council can see you loud and clear and hear you, and it's all good.
Okay. Oh, great. Great. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I sent reports to all of you on Friday. Hope you all have them. Wanted to start with the performance report, which has the bar graph here, and start with the 2021 wrap up, how we did. And happy to report to the town that we had a return of just over 5%, of 5.36 for the year. Very conservative allocation per the town's policy. 2021 was a year where bonds struggled in terms of performance. It was a poor year for bonds, and with a portfolio that's close to 70% bonds, we were able to have a return of over 5%. So we're very happy with how the portfolio performed. And the benchmark for the year, the benchmark was 3.38. So we outperformed the benchmark by almost 200 basis points. So very, very pleased. If you look at the second to last line from the bottom is the fixed income portion of the portfolio. And you'll see the benchmark for bonds for the year was down about 1.5%. So as interest rates rise, bond prices go down. And we've positioned the portfolio to guard against interest rate risk. And what we did was we have a very short bond portfolio ladder. Basically, everything's going to mature in the next 5 years. And we did that because we were concerned eventually the Fed's going to have to raise rates. And we're going to see that this year. And so we're going to continue to have a very short-term bond portfolio to guard against that interest rate risk. And so far, so good. We had a TIPS fund in the portfolio, which is pegged to CPI, to inflation. And that was a very good hedge for us. That fund was up over 5% in 2021. So that really helped performance for us. And we're very pleased with how the portfolio performed. Most of these fixed income investments are going to come off and mature over the next 3-4 years. And as rates move up, as the Fed tries to, their policy is obviously to try to negate this inflation that we're having, and they're going to have to raise rates over the next year or 2 years. And we're going to keep our exposure short term for bonds so that we don't have a lot of interest rate risk in the portfolio. So overall, we're very happy. In dollar terms, that means that the town has about $250,000 that you didn't have at the beginning of 2021. We had about $172,000 in dividends and interest. and gains on the portfolio, unrealized gains was about 91,000. So overall, we're very, very pleased with how the portfolio performed. The allocation as it stands right now is about 3.5% cash, about 29% stocks, and 68% fixed income, which is our bonds and CDs in the portfolio. Any questions so far for me?
Nope.
Now going on to the portfolio statement here, looking at the mix of both bond and stock investments. We have a nice mix of both corporate bonds, U.S. government obligations. We have some CDs in the portfolio, and some bond funds that have performed very well and were a hedge against that interest rate risk. The stock part of the portfolio did very, very well. Have some value names in here: General Mills, Bristol Myers, Johnson & Johnson, Visa, Microsoft. They all did very well. And on the equity side, we added a hedge called the Calamos Market Neutral Fund, which helped with volatility over the year, and it's helped so far in 2022. And if you look at some of the funds that we use here, on page 5 of your statement, you'll see the Fidelity Growth Fund, Dodge and Cox Fund. We have a mid-cap, small-cap, emerging markets, and international, and that's a way to diversify the portfolio going forward. So far in 22, international stocks have outperformed our domestic stocks by a wide margin, and that exposure to international, because we're going to have times in the market where the international funds are going to outperform domestic, and we feel that going forward, having that exposure, having a diversified portfolio is going to help us ride out this very volatile time in the market. With, we have all these geopolitical risks right now with Russia and Ukraine, and I could talk about Taiwan and China, and these geopolitical risks are always going to be there, in the market. But if you stick to your long-term allocation per the town's policy, I think we'll be fine. There's certainly a lot of headwinds right now with inflation and with the geopolitical risks that I just mentioned. But I think the portfolio is positioned to ride out the storm going forward. So very, very pleased so far how we've done. We've managed the town's assets for about 2 years now. And since inception, we're up about 12% through the end of the year against benchmark 9.5%.
Okay. Has anybody got any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, with the Johnson & Johnson stock, we see the current price at 167.21. Has that really made a big difference, what with COVID and the vaccines? Did you notice anything?
Yeah, it's good to have a value stock like that in the portfolio. Like I mentioned, with like a Bristol Myers. I think value going forward is going to be the place to be, because as interest rates go up, these tech stocks are going to have a headwind. Tech stocks do very well in a low rate environment because they can issue debt for very low cost. They can build factories. They can do a lot within a low rate environment. But when rates start to go higher here over the next year or two, value is going to be the place to be. So, having these names in the portfolio like General Mills, and Visa and Johnson & Johnson are going to be, I think, it's going to be the place to be for the town. So we're going to have a bias towards value going forward because, I just think, going forward, this market will rotate from a growth-oriented, like it's been over the last 5 years. You know, the Teslas of the world, the Facebooks, they've done very well, but we're going to rotate into more of a value market, and I think these names are going to do very well. So,
Okay, well, thank you.
Anything else? Anybody got anything else?
I'll bite because I'm ignorant. Some discussion of what the town's goals or what their directives have been on the investing. I want to find this information for me.
So we do have an
sure,
investment
yeah.
policy.
Go ahead.
In general, that we use towards our investments. Municipalities are a little bit different than, say, you yourself as an individual as to how we are actually allowed to invest our funds. There's a minimal amount of risk that we're actually by law allowed to take simply because of the fact that we're a municipality and they're public funds. So what we've done in years past is typically our investment managers, usually every 5 years or so, or shorter if need be, has gone out to bid. So there's a bid process, a selection process. We interview, we vet, all of that, and hire firms. So like Matt had said, First National has been with us for about 2 years. We have been happy with what they have done with our portfolio and how they've managed things, and going well. And if Matt has anything to add to that, so.
Yeah, sure. This policy is very conservative, and it's typical of a municipality. What we're trying to accomplish here with a 25-75 portfolio, which is 25% stocks or stock funds and 75% bonds and cash, is to get a return on an annual basis that's higher than what one would receive if they were just investing in CDs at a local bank, for instance. And the reason we're doing that is because the buying power of these funds, these are long-term, they're either, perpetual for cemeteries, or they might be reserve funds. There's a long-term investment horizon there. And if you're not investing in risk assets, then you're not keeping up with inflation. So inflation is eating into the buying power of these funds on an annual basis. Right now, we're talking about 6%, but on average, historically, it's closer to 3%. So if you're not getting a return of north of 3%, the buying power of this money is going down every year. And if you're trying to buy a police cruiser in 20 years, or whatever you're trying to buy, and on the long term, you need to have these funds invested so that you're beating inflation. And CDs right now are not doing that. If you go to a local bank, you're going to get a 3-year CD at less than 1%, and that's just not going to cut it. So what we're trying to do is invest the town's money conservatively, but beat that inflation number and make sure that the buying power of these funds are there for you down the road when you need to buy that fire truck or police cruiser or whatever it is.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. Thank you,
Right.
Michelle.
And just for some additional information, so what Matt had mentioned is like some of our trust funds. A lot of our trust funds that we have, the principal was given with the fact that the municipality is only allowed to use its interest that it generates, and you're not allowed to touch the principal. And a lot of these gifts were done at a time when a market was very different. Interest rates on a CD could be somewhere around 10%. These are numbers that nobody's seen in a very, very long time. So this type of investment works better for us. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. I guess we're.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Appreciate you very much.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. We will now move on to our first order of business, which it's a public announcements. Details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Nomination papers for MSAD number 49 school board are available on March 7th for June 14th, 2022 election. Please contact the town clerk for details. Number 2, the town would like to recognize and wish a happy centenarian birthday Gladys E. Benner, who turned 100 on February 5th. Gladys is also Fairfield current Boston Post cane holder.
Happy birthday, Gladys.
Happy birthday.
Moving to the second order of business is public hearings. I have none. Third order of business, public comments. Limit 3-minute equivalent to public speaking. Members of the public may email comments for council at info@fairfieldme.com by 4 p.m. the day of the meeting on any topic or agenda item. Items may be read aloud at this time. Were there any items?
I didn't get any.
None. Okay. Then we will move on to our fourth order of business, which is reports from staff and committees. Town managers report.
Okay, so February 10th, the First Park Executive Board met to finalize the 22-23 budget. We also had a meeting with the assessor from Oakland regarding the assessed value of T-Mobile. T-Mobile has filed for a tax abatement, and the revenues generated from property taxes in the park is what provides the revenue to the municipality, because First Park is in a complete and total TIF district. So what's going on with the park's biggest taxpayer was very important to the group, and that's a process that they're working through. The new budget currently, as it is projected and is slated for its first reading with the General Assembly tomorrow evening, and then its final vote next month, is not at this time suspected that it will change the municipality's assessment for this year. And if you remember last year, we almost broke even for exactly what we put in, we got back. So that was the first time that that had happened ever in the inception of First Park, so that was a good thing. Also, February 14th, I was able to reach a tentative agreement with Gregory's regarding the industrial road expansion, so final paperwork should be coming to you sometime in March for us to go over and look at that. And then the 15th, KV-COG Board of Directors meeting. They're currently working on developing a shared code enforcement position, which will be used by 2 towns as well as the COG, with the cost split 40, 40, and 20. It's a way of them trying to do some workforce development in an arena that municipalities that have part-time employees in those types of capacities are having a hard time finding individuals. But if you hired a full-time individual with benefits under another organization, so that's something that that organization is working towards. The 16th was a Teams meeting with Stephen Zaretti, who's the Senior Director of Government Affairs and Policy at Brookfield Renewable, to discuss LD 1979, which is later on in your agenda. Also, that Wednesday, attended the business after hours at the Grange. Bowman Constructors was the host. They are a Newport-based company, so they did rent the Grange for this event. It was very well attended. The 17th, the LPC Committee for Maine Municipal Association did meet. LDs discussed included everything from right to know law changes, rising sea levels, the government supplemental budget. There's a very real probability of emergency meetings at any time throughout the next several weeks as the new LDs roll out, and as a matter of fact, there's one, I think, tomorrow that popped up this afternoon. February 22nd, I took part in a Chamber Chatter interview to promote the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce's annual award ceremony. If you are not aware, I have been selected as Mid-Maine Chamber's Municipal Employee of the Year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
I still don't know who nominated me for it, but anyway, we'll work on that. And then, just as a general reminder, Saturday is the Budget Committee meeting at 8 a.m. for here at the Community Center for the Budget Committee to go over their budget and for everybody to be here for that. And that's it.
Okay. Committee reports.
The Economic and Community Development Committee is meeting this coming Tuesday at 3 o'clock right in this room, and we welcome the public to join us since we are beginning the waterfront planning process and our visioning. So more input, the better off we'll be.
Very good. Okay. Any other committee reports? None. All right. Then we'll move to our fifth order of business, which is the consent agenda. Now, these items are considered routine or standard business, therefore will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item would be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. So we'll go to item 22-19, which is ordered that the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives a reading of and accepts the minutes for meeting 2022-03 held on February 9th, 2022. Item 2220, ordered that the Town Council hereby approves the Treasurer's Warrant number 50, General Fund, in the amount of $256,873.55. Now, this is not limited to, but includes MSAD 49 fuel, motor vehicles, MMA, bond bank, and MMEHT.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries full. Moving to sixth order of business. Take action on the following items of business as read by Council Chair. Ordered that the Town Council, 2021, ordered that the Town Council hereby considers and awards bids for the 96 zero-turn motor to be expended from the Public Works Capital Reserve accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Are you recommending?
Well, as read.
As read, I would.
No, are you going
We
to
can
select someone?
hear from the Public Works boss.
Did you want to say anything, Bruce?
Do you want to say anything, Bruce?
Nope, I've got it all there in my recommendation.
Okay, then I have a question for you.
Sure.
With a 96-inch wide mower deck,
Yes.
will you be able to go through the headstones at the cemetery?
No, we don't have any intentions of using this for the cemetery.
Oh.
It's mainly for the pal fields and the parks.
Okay, yeah, because that was my first thought. It'd get stuck because it was so wide. So, it sure is expensive, though.
It is.
Is that because it's 96 inches wide?
Yes.
So something to add to that.
Yeah.
The reason why this was pursued is, if you remember, last summer, well, throughout a good portion of the year, we struggled to get employees for Public Works for the summer maintenance crew. And in fact, our Public Works Director spent a great deal of time mowing the ball fields himself. So basically what this does is that this gives us a piece of equipment that allows us to get the job done in half the time, especially if we are going to find ourselves in a position again this summer where we have half the number of staff. It just makes it easier. One, it makes it easier in general to mow the ball fields and the park areas and to get through that more quickly. But as we start to continue to struggle finding employees, especially temporary employees who, I think last year were probably only making $12 an hour, we struggle to find people to do that work. So there is a proposal in this year's budget to raise that rate for those temporary staff, but it is difficult to find folks. So this was a solution to what could potentially be a long-term problem.
Okay.
So I will make the motion that we accept the bid from MB Tractor and Equipment of Fairfield for $28,793.25.
I'll second the amended motion.
Okay, that's just to let known that is the low bid of the bids that came in. Any questions, concerns, or anything? No? All those in favor? Carries full. All right.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. All right. Moving on then to item 2222. Order that the Town Council hereby considers and awards bids for the library window replacement be expended from the library, Lawrence Public Library Building Fund account for $17,665. That bid was from Stevens Siding and Window.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Stevens Siding and Window Company for $17,665 to replace 9 windows downstairs and 1 window in the attic.
I'll second that amended motion.
Yes.
Would you consider amending further and having that be, read to be half to be expended from the Lawrence Public Library Building Fund and half from the town's building capital improvement account?
Yes, I will make that amendment to the motion.
Thank you.
And that, yep, you've got it.
I do, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
I was just wondering if anybody had any questions?
Is there any questions for the librarian?
Melissa, what's the time frame for this being done?
One day, I think they said for the window in the attic, and 3 to 4 for the ones downstairs. And it's about 14 to 16 weeks out for materials.
Okay, well, good luck.
Anybody else got anything? Any questions, concerns?
And just so you're aware, the reason why we're replacing the window upstairs in the attic is because it's about ready to fall out.
Yes,
So,
it has been for a while.
yeah.
Yeah, so they'll fix the trim around it and all that too, right? Okay,
All right,
thank you.
there's nothing else from anybody. All those in favor? Carries full. It is done. All right, then moving on to item 2223. Order that the town council hereby authorizes the town manager to submit testimony for LD 1979, an act to sustain good-paying jobs in the forest product industry by ensuring consistency between comprehensive river resource management plans and state water quality standards. I would look for a motion.
Motion as read.
I'll second.
Okay. Questions? Yes.
If you turn to page 1 of that packet,
Yep.
I read on our emails today from the Kennebec River Resource People.
Alliance.
Alliance, thank you. And I want to make sure that this is going to protect us as a town to ensure our economic viability with the river.
Okay.
So I'm looking at number 4, the rules.
Yep.
And Michelle, I'd like to hear from you on this, where it's a
So-
major change.
The major change to what's currently out there in the section of the law that they're amending, okay, which is Section 12, Title 12, MSRA 407, Section 1. Okay, so the major change is this number 4 rule. So if you remember back in December, there was a river resources management plan that I testified against because it called for the immediate removal of these dams, and
Dams, yeah.
barely any information was given. They almost didn't have a public hearing. It was all kind of a little shady, to the point that the governor even admitted it, and everybody got their hands slapped and everything went away. So what they're doing is they're trying to prevent that from happening. So what this major change is that they are going to treat these type of reports as major substantive rules as defined under Title V. So I provided you Title V, and it's B12, and what that means, major substantive rules are rules in the judgment of the legislature that, one, require the exercise or significant agency discretion or interpretation in drafting, or 2, which this is the piece that answers your question, because of their subject matter or anticipated impact are reasonably expected to result in a significant increase in the cost of doing business, a significant reduction in property tax value, the loss or significant reduction of government benefits or services, the imposition of state mandates on units of local government as defined in the constitutional main Article 9, Section 21, or other serious burdens on the public or units of local government. So this change does exactly what you said. It requires the legislature to review to ensure that there's not a major financial impact to the municipality, as opposed to when they put it forward before, there was no review done at all about the fiscal impact to the region.
Right, and there has been over the years a couple of dams removed, but they did that too, that actually didn't make any sense to remove them, technically.
Okay. So with something like this, should we be contacting the legislators?
So what's going to happen is that there's a public hearing on this bill on February 28th. That's when the legislature, this will go to committee and they'll do a review on this. And what we have done before in the past is either upfront testify, or you can submit testimony, written testimony. So we don't have to wait until, the way participating in hearings now on bills is a little bit different with Zoom world, and you could
Yes.
spend all day waiting to talk to someone about something.
Right.
So what you could do is you could submit written testimony that says that you are for this change, you're against this change, you're neither for nor against, but you like some aspects of it, or why you think it's a good idea. Or you could do nothing. You don't have to do anything. But if you were to submit testimony about the fact that you were for this change to ensure the financial well-being of the municipality, as we had before with our testimony. So the testimony that we did originally when it came to the dams, we submitted, it was a neither for nor against, because we didn't want to debate the merits of how fragile a species was on the endangered species list. And that wasn't the debate we wanted to get into, but we had the exact, but our stance was, it was the municipality, we were worried about their survival. Mm-hmm. And you could submit testimony based upon that. And because this came up so quickly, I didn't have a chance to draft any kind of, put a draft together for you, but figured we'd come up with something throughout the conversation tonight and could easily put it together, and then email it off to the council, make sure everybody's kind of okay with it, and do that.
Yeah. I feel that is a very good idea. I think that we should take a stance. When I think of all the employees at SAPI from our town that are there, it's 700 employees at SAPI. The recreational aspects of the river would be harmed. The economic value. It's just that it's time for us to let the legislators know that we do not want the dam removed, period.
Yep. It wouldn't be a bad idea to contact the committee members.
But I think as
this
a
point.
unified group, us as a
Right.
council should be promoting this.
Oh, I understand
And
that,
with,
too, yes, but
you
I
know,
mean,
our John
if, you know, for
Hancock.
anybody that's listening or anything, if they would,
Oh,
you know,
yeah, the
contact
public
committee
should
members,
contact.
because it has to come out of committee before it goes into vote
Yeah.
for the legislators, so we need a positive push coming out of committee for that, because I can guarantee you that there will be some strong anti-bill.
Well,
This is also more about the process as well, so that in the future, you don't have a major change that happens without review.
Right.
And I think that's really important.
Right.
For us, yes, great, but it also is important for any other town in this state.
That's
Any-
correct.
Any future,
that's true, yeah.
Yep.
And I think that should be mentioned in our response, saying that this is needed for the 21st century, to protect our interests. So, that's a good point, Matt. And I hope that, you know, as a council, we'll stand behind this and not just let Michelle talk about it, but put it in writing and send it forth.
Right.
Strongly approve.
Pretty sure that there isn't anybody alive today that has seen that river without the dam in it.
No. I went back over the register from 1904, the Fairfield Register, because I could have sworn I saw in there that at one point it was like 23 feet deep. I read that thing 4 times, and that it even had the census of that year, and I couldn't find it. The only thing that of mention and came from when the Quakers had to walk to Vassalboro for their meeting. And we're talking 1700s. They could only pass and walk across the river at certain times. And the other side of that coin is, we needed to have a ferry right here in order for people to cross.
Right.
So it was not a passable thing. I went and checked the geological survey on the Kennebec River and what it's made out of, and
Water, right?
well, yeah. But what the rock bed is.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Oh.
And, you know, I don't think that it's going to be as detrimental as we think it's going to be, but I'm not a geologist either, so, but I just.
Oh, yeah, it would have a large effect on it,
Yeah.
I think, with the way we have with the climate today and
Yeah.
things. And not only that, not to mention what it would do to property values. And
Yeah, I read several really good articles on the history of the Kennebec this morning, and basically, it's viable, and it has been since they put in the dams.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
I mean,
the first dam, you know where the first dam was? If you go, it was almost right in back of where Riverjack Tavern was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the first dam
Interesting.
was built.
Huh.
And it lasted
Yeah.
until it rotted. And at that time, and I went to see what this meant. There were it provided 800 inches of water. And I think that's like, you know, per square foot or whatever. This was, I don't know how they measured it, I couldn't find out. But whatever it was 800 inches. And well, that was pretty sizable, whatever that means. So, so anyways,
Right.
thank you, Michelle, for doing that.
And, you know, and it's still recreational. You can, if you drop your canoe in down below Waterville on the other side, you can canoe right down to the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, certain times of the year.
Well, certain, other times you'd have to walk and drag your
July,
canoe.
August, probably.
Drag it.
April, May, you do best.
Yeah, you can all sit there. I can remember back in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, I walked across the river. It was maybe knee-deep.
Yeah.
We had quite a drought back then, and it was,
Was the dam, the gates closed?
yeah, they were conserving water
Yeah.
at the time. So, I mean, you take a look at that, but when they did up to Skowhegan, when they dropped the water level for
Yeah.
repairs,
Yep,
there was a brook in
Yeah.
the middle.
right.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, because everything had just gone down to the ocean. But it's amazing when you look at the history of the log drives on the Kennebec, right out this way, and we're talking the early 1900s.
Yes.
That, it's substantial water back then, but by then you've got the Weston
It
Dam,
was
you've
still
got
even,
the
yeah, I mean,
Shawmut
I can
Dam.
remember back when I was stationed at Winter Harbor, and I used to come up here back in the early 60s and stuff. I mean, you had logs across there. You
Oh,
could
yeah.
walk across
I
that.
remember those.
You could walk across that river all the time with solid logs, nothing coming down the Scott Paper Company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, definitely. So when does that have to be written and sent to the legislature?
My goal is to have it to them by first thing Monday morning.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So I will go. All in favor? Yes. Carries full. All right, now, moving on to the seventh order of business, which is council workshop and other business. Discuss public hearing timetable for drinking water expansion proposal.
Basically, this was, as we were trying to put some stuff together without sending 100 emails as to when folks were available. Wondering whether or not you wanted to do like, say we did this public hearing at your last meeting in March, which would be March 23rd, and just know that we made that agenda really light? Or do you want it to be a completely separate night, completely separate event? Because, you know, we've hosted, and the only reason I ask that is because we've hosted public hearings before where we think we're going to get a lot of people come, and they don't. But no, and also knowing how time was and all of that. So just kind of wanted to get council's feedback and thoughts on how you want this handled as we put this together, and what folks were thinking.
My first thought is, if it's a regular council meeting and the public is here to speak, they have 3 minutes to say their piece.
Not if,
Would that hold true?
no, with a public hearing, you don't put a timetable on it. What you do is you try to assess how many folks you have there to speak, and then you don't want somebody to go on for half an hour, because that, oftentimes what happens is people also have a point, end up walking out the door. But when in a public hearing, the 3-minute rule doesn't apply.
Okay. Would we ask Dirigo Engineering to be present to
Yes.
go over their
Yes.
work?
Definitely.
And my other thought process was to potentially ask, I want to ask DEP to be here, but I don't know as if that will work, and I don't know as if they will come.
And we'd actually have to have it in the gymnasium and not in
Well, we
here.
could be prepared to move it to the
Yeah.
gym if we needed to, and be set up for that. We're kind of getting away from,
Why do you want DEP to be
Well-
present?
To answer any questions that,
to answer some folks' questions, especially if it came to, say I haven't had my well tested yet, or I haven't had my filtration system installed yet, and the long-term piece of that. And so the big thing is that, we're looking at this project at the fact that filtration system maintenance by the state of Maine is not sustainable long-term. The state hasn't said that recently. They did in the very beginning, and that they would do it as long as the funds held out. That was the caveat they made with everything. But the funds keep being put into this. But truthfully, I don't think you're going to get anybody at the state level to come into a town meeting and they're going to stand there and say, we are not going to continue to support the maintenance of your filtration system. I don't think that they will say that.
To me, that would be, to have DEP present, that would be something as a need that needs to be addressed, and not the focus of our initiative on getting public water out to the affected areas. For me, I would rather not see DEP here, but rather keep it in-house. And then if the need arises and DEP needs to be, there are questions or concerns, then we'll take it that step.
That
Next step. That's my opinion. But
Yep.
I think we need to just focus on what we're doing and how we're going to do it.
I think that's a reasonable thought. Talking about filtering, yeah, the DEP could answer that question, but we could also kind of have that statement, we're concerned about the sustainability of filters, and why we need to focus on the water expansion project.
Yeah.
yep.
So thoughts on regular council meeting or separate event?
Regular.
My feeling is, can't we load up the first meeting in March and then keep the second meeting more?
That's what we've been
designated?
talking
I've already
about.
looked at it.
Yeah, we've been
I would
talking about it.
I would stack you accordingly, as
Yeah.
best as we possibly can with all the regular business.
Yep, and
Go.
then.
Because we have a general idea of what March's regular business looks like. So, and that was a conversation we had, was can we front load the month and then lighten the end of the month? So that you know that it'll be one of those meetings where it's an absolute, whatever we do there is a have to have. It's not, yeah, you've got a good break in between because it is a 5-week month, but it should still work fine because there's not a whole, once we get beyond this, we're winding down towards town meeting and all of that. So you guys don't really have
Right.
not a lot of things that'll come up.
Yeah, would it be possible to put this announcement of this meeting's agenda on the website? And there may be
Oh, yeah.
some people who can't make it to the meeting but have concerns, and they can email them in and they will be addressed?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a public meeting, so it has to be listed in the newspaper, and it has to be
Right,
with
but for
different
those that can't
things.
make it, they may want to send forth
Yep.
their concerns.
My goal is to try to think about every possible avenue to advertise this, so that we reach people that don't have Facebook and people who don't have social media and they're not
Right.
reading stuff online and that kind of stuff, but ways to publicize it so
We
that
need
it's
some media press.
good old-fashioned presence. No, yep, we're definitely working on that. And the Growth Council and I have been discussing a press release for the event. It was just kind of a matter of nailing down when it was going to be.
Right, and it's becoming more and more pushy on the media right now anyway. Not us, but the PFAS thing and all over. So I think it's very important, because it's not only going to affect us, this meeting also may not just affect us, it may affect everybody.
We're just the tip
That
of the
is,
iceberg.
because we're just kind of the starting point.
Yeah.
Are they going to have room enough?
Yeah, in the
Well, I'm thinking, well, actually, what we'll do is we'll set up this meeting in the gym.
gym.
Yeah.
We'll just set it up in the gym, period.
Yep.
And be ready for it. And then
I-
you'll just meet in the gym.
For the two people that, and then the two people show up.
Yeah.
I would yield to you. You got both Christine, Michelle, you know it better than we do. And so if you think that we can do that, I prefer the town meeting. It's basically a normally scheduled council meeting. But if you don't think that will work, then I would yield to you. If you think that can work, then let's do it.
Right now, I think it will work for you. Do I think maybe there might become a time where you might not be able to do it at the same event? There could be, or when it comes time for some other things, but I think for the first initial one, because this is really just a matter of talking to folks and, what are people's concerns, what are their thoughts about this, and there's an awful lot of work that's about to start on this project, and if the community, if the town as a whole does not want this, well, then it's an awful lot of wasted time that a lot of people are going to be doing. And I think you really need to have that feedback.
Right.
And we were talking about, what's the best way to notify people? Well, how great it would be to put it in, the flyer that goes out about town meeting, but that's too far out. We don't want to wait till May. I have a meeting scheduled already for next week with Dirigo and the Kennebec Water District, because, the more we start diving deep into these grant programs, it's, well, who applies, who doesn't apply? And then is there a cap for applying? Because the water district has their own capital projects that they're already working on and then expansions in other communities. So is there a threshold in which they can only get X amount of dollars? And is there, there's a lot of questions still to be answered, and it takes there's currently 4 people working on generating answers to the questions, millions of questions we come up with every time we sit down and meet about how we go forward with this project. So it'll be really good to know that you've got the public's feedback before this gets to the point where it's a lot more work for nothing, so.
Right.
Another question is, I haven't found anything, but is there any emerging technology on PFAS filtration that hasn't been mainstream media as of yet? I haven't found, I've done
Not
some
that I'm
brief
aware of.
looking, but
Yeah,
I
nothing-
wouldn't suspect that nobody's working on this. I would have to think somebody's working on this somewhere.
So I know in my beginning conversations with DEP, when they were looking into filtration systems, this is when David Burns still worked for the organization, he had said that one of the issues DEP had was that there weren't filtration systems out there that were designed to remediate some of the levels of PFAS that we have. And we do have some folks, last time I was updated, about a couple weeks ago, that are still having a really hard time getting a filtration system that stays in place for more than a month or more than 45 days based upon their PFAS levels.
Wow.
And it may be that, I don't know what the answer is to that, and I know that that's what DEP is working on, because it's just not, like I said, since we stopped helping them with water, we don't have much of a conversation. I've had one conversation with them since November. So I don't know what they're doing. I really don't.
I mean, within the next couple of years, there could be breakthrough technology in this, and,
There could be.
it's,
It's one step at a time.
and putting city water out through wherever it becomes moot.
Right. And that's true. Or it could be that there is no change, because remember, PFAS isn't even a federally regulated chemical at this point.
Right.
Not any of them. And so maybe it doesn't change, and maybe when all of the stimulus money runs out, the state of Maine comes in and says, we were paying for that $2,000 filter swap out, but this is your last one. And we have folks on very fixed incomes who now know that they're subject to a life in a household in which they can't maintain their drinking water.
Right.
And we had an opportunity to harness an incredible amount of federal money that's being thrown out in the world right now, and chose not to do that. It could be that, too.
There's a dark side to
Everything.
If you want to look hard enough, we can find the negative to any debate we have.
That's right.
I mean, and who's to say within the next few years, tributaries to China Lake don't become contaminated with PFAS and the entire lake is contaminated, and now
There is PFAS in China Lake.
Yes.
they're filtering it to get it. And
So the Kennebec Water District has posted the results on their website. They are at 8 parts per trillion. It's been posted, I don't know how recently they've tested, but that was the last result that I knew of. But what there is, because one's been installed in Presque Isle, there is a filtration system where you can treat the water coming in from the lake and scrub the PFAS out of it. Because they had a public drinking water system, I think it's either Presque Isle or in the Presque Isle region, in which that's one of the things that they had to do. The state of Maine paid for the filtration system for the water district. The water district now maintains the equipment. So there are big scrubbers that will do stuff, just like Madison wastewater treatment. They just got, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $3 million collectively from different organizations, where they will be scrubbing their effluent, which is the liquid discharge that goes into the Kennebec, because their effluent was being discharged into the Kennebec with PFAS in it, and it's above Skowhegan Water District's intake. So they knew that they were putting PFAS into the Kennebec River, and then Skowhegan's Water District was picking it up and sending it out. So they've just gotten some the money, funding for the equipment to scrub that and work on that side of things. So the technology is changing all the time and emerging, and they'll get there. The issue we have is we don't have any way to take it out of the soils. And the other piece is that for every new home that could potentially be built in our rural communities faces a brand new well in which there'll be no free state filtration system for. There'll be no filtration maintenance for. It'll be done. And everybody and their brothers are going to question as to whether or not they ever want to come to Fairfield to put in a well and build new.
Well, it's not going to be just Fairfield, it's going to be the entire state.
And it is, it's going to be all over. So unfortunately, though, they haven't found one like us yet. Granted, it's still at the beginning, but we'll see.
They will.
I've heard that's their mantra, that they pray down there that they don't find another Fairfield.
Right.
But who knows? I don't care. We're still a great place to be. I don't care what anybody says, and it'll all get fixed. People have filtration systems all over the United States.
Yep.
But the public hearing will be good for that feedback, so.
I mean, we've got places in town where arsenic levels are through the roof, and people have
Yep.
filtration systems to take the arsenic out of
Yep.
their water.
Right.
And radon and all
Radon.
kinds of good stuff. Yep.
All right. Moving on to discuss other council business.
Just consensus, March 23rd,
Yeah.
public hearing? Just making sure. Thank
We
you.
did. All right,
I have nothing.
Good.
I'm good. Michael?
I am all set this evening.
I will spout just for a few brief seconds. I just want to, number one, say congratulations to the Lawrence High School girls basketball team reaching the North A finals. I also want to talk about going to the business after hours at the Grange and learning about community. And so when you have that sense of community, it's nice to see as this town council, I can guarantee you that my opinions and political leanings are different from everybody else's. But we all work together here as a council to do the right thing for this town. And so I think that is great to see the community. And when we start hitting issues like PFAS, we are going to need more help from the community. So we need to be all about building community. Hopefully, everybody out there listening will be part of the solution in this area and others to come. So,
Thank you.
Very nice.
Okay. So our next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, March 9th, 2022, and it will be held as a hybrid meeting via Zoom in the council chambers at 6:30 PM. We will now go into recess and sign all documents that require the signature of council members.
Motion to recess.
second.
We are recessed.